And we are live. What's going on, everyone? It's Talks with Kenny. This will be episode 64. So, what we're going to talk about today is identity politics. I think identity politics has been making headwinds back into politics again. And I think that's because the Democrats are now wearing identity politics like a brand name trademark. And it seems like, Kamala Harris, we got to talk about Kamala Harris, sweet Kamala Harris. And Mr. Reagan, who created that first viral parody ad, has decided to create another one. But before I show you guys this 1 minute and 15 seconds glorious interpretation of events, I want to talk about a few rundowns of what I'm going to talk about. We're going to talk about the economy. Unemployment is high today. Hey, you saw the job numbers? Many people are starting to realize that we're in a recession. Some people say we're going to be in a recession. Some people say we've been in a recession. I was one of those people to be cautious about the fact that this economy feels propped up by government spending. And this is probably why we have such inflation going on right now. And in the next part, I'll talk about how exactly the left has used identity politics and how their supporters actually support segregation, right? Has, in a way, racism as well, because they see color. And when you see color, there's this idea, this privilege that these people who are in the Democratic Party gets to take advantage of, such as not facing criticism, having alibis for all your inadequacies in life. And I think this is one of the reasons why identity politics has now become the brand of the Democratic Party. But enough about me giving you the rundown. Let's start into our first segment. My first segment will be me reacting to Kamala ad parody number 2. So the same guy who did the first viral parody, he decided to do another one. And I think this encapsulates pretty well of the entire topic of this video, this entire topic of this live stream, and the part that identity politics seems to play. Now, I will warn you, this is a parody, so people don't come in my comment section trying to say I'm trying to spread fake news. Let's take a look.
I'm Kamala Harris, and this is my rebranding. I get it. Until now, Americans have seen me as that childless Karen that always has too many drinks at the cocktail party, and you don't have the heart to tell my husband Doug that he's a whipped beta male married to an insufferable witch. Look, I get it. I'm unlikable. I'm inauthentic. I say crazy shit.
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day. When we talk about the children of the community, they are the children of the community. You need to get to go and need to be able to get where you need to go to do the work and get home.
And yes, okay, I was the border czar. And so even though I might have been a bad vice president, what I do have is ambition. You would not believe what I would do for this country. Oh, who am I kidding? If you vote for me, you're as cringe as Chuck Schumer.
We are here today to throw our support behind Vice President Kamala Harris.
The funny part about that clip was I remember reacting to that. I'm like, damn, nobody clapped. Like, this lady was installed to be president. No one voted for her. No Democratic supporter voted for her to be the presumptuous nominee. Right? You got BLM mad at the fact that they installed her, that they took their opportunity away of putting a more progressive candidate on there. But they're still going to vote for her anyway, right? This is identity politics for you.
I'm clapping. You don't have to.
Let's all see what can be, unburdened by what has been. And by what has been, I mean the Biden-Harris administration. Vote Trump 2024.
Trump should use these.
Let's make America great again.
I'm Professor Sagan Deesnuts, and I approved this message.
Yeah, I honestly believe Trump should be using these things, these ads, bro. He wasn't planning to make another one, but Gavin Newsom said it wasn't allowed, so he had to make it. So I wanted to deep dive more into how did identity politics become the brand of the Democratic Party. As you saw for the past week, it seems like we've been talking a lot about Kamala Harris's lineage, where she come from, how significant this moment is. And it all comes down to this idea spread from wokeness, where there needs to be representation, regardless of merit, regardless if someone actually deserves to be in this position, for the sake of fairness, equal outcomes. This is where all this representation crap comes from, right? Because you don't see these people spewing, we need more representation in the NBA, fields and industries primarily dominated by minorities. You don't see people arguing or crying for representation. Oh, it needs to be disproportional. How are you 30% of the population, but you make up 74% of the NBA? There's none of that DEI talk, that diversity talk when it comes to the NBA. So this is some of the problems I have. So Peter Thiel, I believe that's how you say his last name, he's going to make a comparison to wokeness and religion, which has been done by many people who observe this pattern of the left. And this is how identity politics, in a way, has become synonymous with the Democratic branding. Let's take a quick look.
Christianity, the main religion of the Western world, it always takes the side of the victim, and there's something where it is like some kind of deformation or intensification, and maybe you should think of wokeness as ultra Christianity or hyper Christianity. It's just sort of like an extreme intensification.
I'll disagree with that, actually, because I think wokeness is just a religion that's competing with Christianity. Because at the end of the day, Christianity talks about ownership. Christianity talks about responsibility, right? And essentially, it's like, hey, your trials, you're redeemed through your trials. Hey, there is purpose. There is reasons why you're going through the obstacles that you're going to. It sells hope, right? Not to be a victim, but to be a victor, right? They say in the Bible verse, they said something about no weapon formed against you will prosper because the Lord's on your side. It doesn't take the side of the victim. It empowers the victim to become a victor, right? Because the Bible's the 10th talent is the best encapsulation, the most rational way to encapsulate Christianity. Is essentially is, hey, God gave you this body. God gave you free will to do what you will with this body. You must assume that God gave you everything you need to fulfill all the goals and purposes that you need in this world, because there's a reason why you're here. So this idea, I don't like him conflating wokeness with Christianity, but hey, let's see where he goes with this.
And it's maybe there's no forgiveness, and so it's sort of it's you still have original sin, and you have all these bad things that happened in the past. The past is terrible, and you can never overcome it. But there's surely is a religious interpretation that this is sort of, what happened is, as let's say the church lost a certain amount of authority, but people didn't become rationalist atheist people. They went into the sort of woke religion, which has to be which I would interpret as a certain extreme form of Christianity.
I don't see the correlation, but I guess he's just trying to make the religious argument. Oh, look, it's religious. It's zealous corner. And this is the framework of the left now, right? You can't question a black woman, right? Or you're racist, sexist, right? Right. And then this brings me a quote that I want to share with you guys. One of the saddest lessons of history is this: if we have been bamboozled long enough, we tend to reject any evidence of the bamboozle. We're no longer interested in finding out the truth. The bamboozled has captured us, and it's simply too painful to acknowledge, even to ourselves, that we have been taken. Once you give a charlatan power over you, you almost never get it back. And this is wokeness. That's wokeness to a definition. That's the wokeness to a T. Because nowadays we got women getting destroyed in the Olympics. This is going to my next point. And this is why I say I don't agree with Peter Thiel's interpretation of wokeness being some ultra form of Christianity, because atheists are some of the biggest people that believe that kids should be allowed to reassign their gender, aka cut off their private parts to pretend to be the opposite sex. Atheists are more inclined to believe that stuff than a Christian, right? So this idea that rationalist atheist people are like somehow immune to wokeness, they're the wokest people, right? And my moral argument is that because I believe that atheists are moral cowards and that they only submit to power. They don't really respect. They don't really have any morality that grounds them. The only thing that grounds them is consequences. That's just my argument. I'd like to hear yours in the chat or the comment section. Let's get back to this the story. So Lin Yu Ting, if I mispronounced it, sorry. Second Olympic boxer who failed gender test beats female opponent. Yo, look at the arms on this dude. Let me zoom in. Look at the arm. Look at that. Soft and flabby. And look at this. Ripped as hell. Right? And you let them compete in the same sport. What we doing? Huh? What are we doing? This the second of the two boxers who were previously barred from women's competition over gender concerns have won a match against a female opponent Friday at the Paris Games. Uh, Lin Lin Tao Ting, sorry, I'm gonna just say his first name, Lin of Taiwan, beat Uzbekistan Sitaro Tustara, I'm not gonna butcher your last name, in the women's 57 kilogram division, winning all 3 rounds, advancing to the quarterfinals. The judge was unanimous in their decision to reward Yu Tang the win. Right? Atheists support this stuff, right? This idea that, it's some type of religiosity. Atheists only respect power. And he who has the power right now, the LGBTQ people have this presumptuous power, like this perceived power that, hey, you go against us, you're going to face consequences that you're not going to like. You're going to lose your wealth. You're going to lose your place in society. You'll be called a bigot, sexist, this and that. You'll be called a hateful person. You'll be shamed and demeaned if you go against the woke mafia. And this is what atheists really fear. And I think this is why a lot of atheists support the idea that young kids can detransition. I'm sorry, that young kids can transition, can decide their gender identity. Many of the atheists are leans towards the left or are the left. And this is a big problem in our culture. And the Democrats have become synonymous with these people, because if you look at it from a religious worldview, just like Republicans are always accused of pushing policy based on a religion, a religious Christian worldview, Democrats have their own religion. And it's the religion of wokeness that demands that people must be perceived first by their identity. And based on their identity, there's different standards for each identity. A man hit a woman, that's domestic violence. But if that man calls himself a woman, oh, that's just 2 women fighting. It goes back to the Abraham Lincoln argument. Just because I tell you, like, the argument essentially is this: I have a dog. If the tail is a leg, how many legs does the dog have? A rationalist, a person who appeals to authority or who fear consequences, will say, oh, you set the framing already. That tail is a leg. And Abraham says, no, it still has 4 legs, because just because I call his tail a leg does not make it a leg. And this is what we're doing in real life. In 2024, in real life, this is what we're doing. Can we go back to the quote again? As a society, the trans thing, in my view, is us being bamboozled. And then no one wants to admit that they're being bamboozled. Some of the most prideful people I know are atheists. I'm just being real right now. Religion teaches you to be humble. Human nature is not natural for us to be humble. It's to be in our ego, to be self-congratulating, to lean on our own understanding. The Bible warns this. This is why I trust biblical Christian principles a little bit more, because as an empiricist, if I look at the empirical outcomes of the Bible, every kind of thing they push, anything against that usually ends up a bad outcome for the general of society. And the trans issue is the biggest bamboozled that we have experienced in our culture in a long time. And everyone's scared to call this out because of what? The consequences, identity politics. Remember, if you're a man, right? Cis man, they create all these language for you. You do this to a woman in public, people are going to fight you. People are going to come to her defense. But you come in, hey, look, I think I'm a woman. I'm sick in the head. I think I'm a woman. People are incentivized to enable you in your delusion because of fear of consequences of being publicly shamed by other people, being called a bigot, being called hateful. This is what I'm saying. We become cowards in a way. We don't have the courage to stand up, or we don't have the courage to admit that, hey, we've kind of been tricked into believing nonsense. And that seems to be the reality of the case. And I don't even want to play the videos because I'm not even sure if I can play these videos. But that's just one point of mine. So now I want to bring up another thing. So recently, I was a part of a Zoom call, Blacks Against Harris Zoom call, right? So I wanted to do a little bit of a reaction of my thoughts on the matter, some of the commentary there. I want to give you some of my commentary first, and then I'll kind of shift through the video and give some of my thoughts at the moment. I don't know, maybe it's just me being self-critical, but I felt like I could have done a bit better with how I led in with the question, but I digress. You know, hindsight's 2020. So this was me in being a part of the Zoom call for Blacks Against Harris. Shout out to Dom for inviting me, allowing me to speak on his platform. And I'll give you a little quick couple seconds, and maybe I'll trot around and just in case you missed it. Here's I think the best part of my contributions to the discussion.
For Black America. And that was where I knew that she is not for Black America. She's just for herself and she's for everybody else, but she's not trying to see us keep our babies. She's not trying to see us keep our family structure. She's just trying to see everything that can allow her to win.
So they're talking. The question they asked us at the end, because this is more towards the end of the video, is why you won't support Kamala Harris or why you are against Kamala Harris in about 30 seconds. So the lady, she was focused more on education. Shout out to her. She gave good points in regards to education, how the school system has essentially conditioned the youth to be un-American, which is something I known. But I like the way she articulated. She used personal examples about her own son and how she had to kind of counteract some of the schooling that her kids were getting in the public school system. And I agree with a lot of what she said here. So she was coming from a more education point of view, but I digress. We're trying to get to my part. So
she's just trying to win. And if she was really trying to be about that life, she wouldn't be a Democrat. But that she's about that life, and I will never, ever, 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 ever vote for a Democrat. I don't care if you're Black. I don't care if you're broke. I don't care if you smart as hell. I'm not voting for a Democrat, period. So, but yeah, she was definitely against the Florida Black education program that they had. I don't even think she read it, because if she read it, she would have seen the beauty in telling us that we are better than what they've been telling us for years.
I agree with her there. I mean, me and her from Florida, so I guess they built blacks different in Florida. I don't know. I ain't taking credit, but I'm just saying it. All right.
So I'm not trying to hear her. She can just kick rocks.
Thank you. Well, that was great. We'll have Kenny.
One reason I'm not voting for Kamala Harris is mainly her supporters. There's blinding supporting a candidate merely because she fits an identity. I honestly believe no matter her qualifications, even if she had the same qualification, if she wasn't a biracial woman, she would not be in her current position. Many of her supporters can't even name me one accomplishment she had as VP, yet they have all this vitriol to shame people, especially Black people, to support her. And mainly, my main reason why I won't support Kamala Harris is her policies. Many of her policies are very liberal, very progressive. These things, they may sound desirable, like taxing the rich, universal health care. They may sound desirable, but if you look out throughout history, every time these policies has been implemented, it's not been a good outcome for anybody. So I don't believe her policies are actually in the benefit of any American, but specifically Black people, because Black people are disproportionately affected by the negative outcomes of mismanagement in the government. And I believe Kamala Harris would definitely mismanage the government. So I think I did. I don't know. I feel like I could have done better, but I mean, I don't know. It's my first like real collaboration, really, being part of something. But shout out to Dom. I think his stream. I don't know how many people he had in the stream, but I think he counted about 70,000 people not 70,000 in impressions, over 1 million impressions on X. I think that was the call. So if you guys want to check it out, it's Blacks Against Harris Zoom call. 28,000 views, but he only has 32,000 subscribers. So it's a pretty good video for his channel. So I want you guys to support him if you can. Shout out to him for inviting me. But it just goes to show that a lot of Black people are kind of waking up to this idea that, hey, look, we ain't gonna vote blue no matter who. More of the independent thinking Blacks are just like, nah, we're not having it. You can't shame us. You can't do anything. And the idea that they leverage identity politics, and this is why they care so much, and they're so invested in the conversation about Kamala Harris possibly being Black, right? This idea of Donald Trump questioning her always presenting herself as a Black woman. When Donald Trump said, oh, I didn't know she was a Black woman, that hurt the Democrats' narrative, because their whole thing was about, they were trying to play up the histrionics, right? They was trying to focus on, the goal was not to have a better America. The goal was not to put in someone competent out, make your life, your day-to-day life easier. The goal of electing Kamala Harris was to push the first woman of color as president and have everyone galvanized trying to make history. The same playbook they did with Barack Obama. But we got real problems coming in, right? Because this is the problem with identity politics, is that they're trying to make you make a decision where, oh, look, you can make history, but what's the point of making history and going through a recession? I mean, we're kind of already hitting into a recession. And this was after news. Imagine the news. Imagine how Biden and Harris must feel right now. They put out news, hey, we're going to cut the rates. And then as that news come out, the data came in and says, oh, look, unemployment rate reaches highest point in nearly 3 years. 3 years unemployment. So let's get into the article, because they were trying to really prop up this economy, right? In 2021, I believe, we had 2 negative GDP growth, and they changed the definition of recession. Recession is not two back-to-back quarters of negative GDP growth. No. That's not a recession. This is an exception. Oh, it's always an exception, huh? Now how are they going to play this up? 59, remember, and I hate the media for this. For the most part, majority of Americans believe the economy wasn't strong. And you know what The Guardian, you know what news sites like The Guardian said? I'm gonna go right now. What the news articles like The Guardian, right, told you that 59% of Americans falsely believe that the economy isn't strong, which was a lot. Like, who's right? The American people who's closer to the issue, or the liberal news outlet, the Journal, right? Journal, 59%. Sorry, guys. Believe economy. Let's see if I can find it. Here we go. This article was more than 2 months old. Look at this. Majority of Americans wrongfully, how arrogant, wrongfully believe U.S. is in a recession, and most blame Biden. Now, if you're a critically thinking individual, right, job numbers came in, because end of the day, job, like data, this is one thing people need to understand when it comes to data. There's 2 kinds of data. There's leading indicators, trends, surveys, right? Something that kind of telegraphs something might happen. That's leading indicators. Lagging indicators are things that only document things that happened in the past. That was the job numbers, right? Unemployment reaches highest in 3 years. 2 months ago, The Guardian put out an article saying that majority of Americans wrongfully believe that the U.S. is in a recession. We're not. So let's get this straight, guys. Look at the cognitive dissonance. This is why I said the Democrat brand, because remember I say my argument, 97% of journalists are U.S. journalists are on the left, right? So 2 months ago, when people were saying, yo, we're in a recession, does this sound like a strong economy to you? Like, yo, lying to your face. Oh, the data says this is the strongest economy. The data is a lagging indicator. It's telling you based on past performance, not present and future performance. Now we got the data. Oh, what do you know? Americans was right. We are in a recession. Some said we were in a recession since 2021. Since the first time we hit back quarters of negative GDP growth, people were like, we're in a recession. And many people I was operating like we was in a recession for 2 years already. What happened? Oh, did I lose it? Oh, I thought I lost something. So I lost my train of thought because we're good. We're stream's good. Okay. So when majority of Americans believe, so the journalists, this is their arrogance here. This is their arrogance, right? Because I made the argument, and the studies have shown this. If you look it up yourself, studies have shown this. The higher your income is, the more likely you are to say that inflation is an exaggerated problem. These journalists, how much you think their average income is? Higher than higher than average Americans. So they're more inclined to believe the data because they're not feeling the pain of Biden and Harris's economy. But we're supposed to vote for her? This came at a bad time for Harris, right? But if you tell, if you tell Roland Martin and them, oh no, I'm gonna vote for Trump. Why? Look at the policies. Look at the outcomes. We're getting killed out here. We just got the numbers to suggest unemployment. I know I keep hammering this point. The unemployment rate rose to 4.3% in July as fewer jobs were added to the economy than expected, according to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics released Friday. The data showed that just 114,000 non-farm jobs were added last month, far less than the 185,000 expected by analysts. Unemployment reached its highest level since October 2021 and is 0.8% higher than this time last year. But 2 months ago, The Guardian said that majority of Americans falsely believe that the U.S. is in a recession. So this is why I say, do your own research. But people on the left will say, if you do your own research, you're likely to believe in misinformation. 2 months ago, if you said you was in a recession, we're in a recession, they would have labeled you misinformation. 2 months later, highest unemployment rate since 2021, October 2021. Now if you say we're in a recession now, in August 2nd, 2024, people are going to not fact check you and say it was incorrect or mostly false. This is the arrogance of the mainstream media. But God forbid you say, yo, Kamala's incompetent. We're in a recession right now. They're going to cut rates, and every time they cut rates, inflation comes up higher than expected. So they're going to have to, why play this game of cat and mouse? This is why I agree with many people, we should end the Fed for real or restrict it heavily so it cannot sway based on the decision makings of a select few. They don't know what they're doing. Modern monetary theory is trash. Let's stop doing it. No. Like, making it complicated for no simple reason. If you don't have the money, you can't spend it. If your business is relying on cheap debt to survive, it don't sound like you got a good business. But instead of, voting in the guy, Donald Trump, who's most American voters see him managing the economy better than Kamala Harris, Kamala Harris actually got a 45% chance to win the election. Imagine that. I'm like, what? 45% of people will vote for her? For what? For what reason? This is how identity politics has become the brand of the Democratic Party. We're going to react to a video of Kevin O'Leary giving his critique of Kamala Harris and what he sees will be the issue if Kamala ends up becoming president. Let's take a look.
Projects. We don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, so I deal with a lot of investors agnostic to politics, and some of them are very big contributors to the Democratic Party. I heard for the first time today, because we like to talk about politics, mostly on policy, and what he said to me was, some of us are having some buyer's remorse. We'd wish we'd run a process because we got so much press in the first 9 days of bringing somebody into the party and raised 200 million plus, which is like a balloon underwater. It just wasn't Biden, so they started contributing. But we gave up
Imagine donating $200 million to Kamala Harris. I wouldn't even give Kamala Harris $2. I wouldn't even give Kamala Harris a penny. And imagine someone giving her $200 million for what? What's she going to do? You don't even know her policies. Imagine that. This is what really pissed me off. I think this is why I'm ranting against Kamala Harris so frequently for the past 2 weeks. It's for the fact that this candidate, you go on her official website. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go on your phone, KamalaHarris.com. You can't even find a single policy position. Now go to Donald Trump's website. You see his policies, Agenda 47, right? And people are giving her $200 million for what? And every time we go back to her past comments and say, hey, look, you did this, you did that. It's a reversal. It's a flip-flop. No one knows where she stands. Kamala Harris has been given advice where she's supposed to take advantage of the fact that people can't pin her down ideologically and use her ideological vagueness to her advantage to show herself as whatever those people need her to be for her to gain their vote. It's the same strategy that Hillary Clinton did 2016. Public policy, private policy. Don't tell them your private policy. Just tell them a public policy. If you're in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, yeah. You go, yes, I'm for fracking. You in New York, I'm against fracking. That's the game she's playing. That's why she hasn't put a policy platform yet. But there's people donating $200 million to her. For what? Identity politics. We need to see the first woman of color to be the president of the United States. But this lady don't want to take a hard interview. This lady's talking tough, and then when Donald Trump showed up at the National Association of Black Journalists, she flaked. She didn't even give the people a response. And then he showed up, and what these Democrat liberal journalists do to him, disrespect him in his face. A former president of the United States, a former leader of your country, and you treated him with such disrespect to the point that black people are like, nah, you can't do that to him. It's crazy. Y'all ain't even let him make his case. Y'all already attacking him. And then people wonder, Democrats wonder why majority of independents and definitely a majority of Republicans do not trust the mainstream media. Only Democrats trust the mainstream media, and that's only at a 58%. Only 58% of Democrats trust the mainstream media. And you wonder why? The Association of Black Journalists proved why. Not even hello, how you doing, former President Donald Trump? We're glad you came here. We're glad you accepted the invite, unlike Kamala Harris. No. Let's address the elephant in the room. Your racist comments in this. Some people were offended that we invited you here. Some people think you don't deserve to be here, Donald Trump. And then Donald Trump goes into, yeah, I did this for Black America. I did the First Step Act. I donated long-term. I gave long-term financing to HBCUs, even beyond my term. First president to do that. Trump just started going in on policies that benefited the Black community. And you're saying he don't deserve to be here? You're questioning his right to be here amongst Black Americans because he says something that Black Democrats didn't like. And you project that until all of Black people. Make it make sense. Only a racist would think like that. But that's identity politics. This is the brand of the Democratic Party. And I'm hoping I'm making my case. Let's continue with the video.
5 weeks of fantastic social media in guessing who really should be the candidate. Now, I hadn't heard that before. It's not that many. I'd guess 20% or something like that. But so that's starting to crack a little bit. And there is precedence for what's going on here. I ask everybody to look north to Canada. When a young Justin Trudeau swept in, nobody cared about his executional skills or what he'd ever done.
That's a good point. Kamala Harris is a female version of Justice Trudeau. Wow, what a comparison.
Or anything. They just thought he was the it guy. Look at the country now.
This is what happened when you vote on flash. Identity politics is flash. Substance is, yeah, I don't like what Donald Trump says. I don't like how he carries himself. He can come out brash. He can come out rude. But his policies, they logically benefit America. They're logically in the interest of American people. But what about Kamala, though? Open borders, how that benefit America? Universal health care, bro, they passed Obamacare, which added $800 billion to our budget, to our government spending, and healthcare's cost is still expensive. So that means you're making us spend $800 billion for what? On Medicare for what? On Obamacare for what? What is Obamacare doing? Just another reason to spend money. That's all it is. Now they stewards of the highest unemployment rate since 2021, and that's still within their administration. They came into power January 2021. October 2021, they just matched their highest unemployment rate. That means they went backwards. So from 2021 to 2023, they had lower unemployment. And then 2024, they went right back to where they started in 2021. And then they think they can win on policy? Hell, if I had a record like Harris and Biden-Harris, I wouldn't run on policy either. I'll run on, hey, look, we can make history if you vote for me. Superficial. But this is what the Democratic Party has become. The Democratic Party has become the party of politicians that look good instead of actually doing good. It sounds good to say universal health care for all. But how are you going to implement it? When you begin implementing it, you realize, oh, we made healthcare costs more expensive. Now, the best and brightest doctors don't want to work for us because technically we're making them slaves to people. Healthcare is not a right. Sorry, that's the reality. A privilege and a right. A right is something you could do without someone else's consent. A privilege is something you need someone else's consent to get. So if you want to get treated medically, you need someone's consent to work on you. So therefore, healthcare is not a right by definition. But the left don't break it down like that. The left pushes entitlement. Because of your identity, you're entitled to act like this. You're entitled to be like that. You're entitled to the presidency because you're a woman of color. That's what identity politics put in the minds of their left-wing supporters. She deserves it. We went through 46 presidents. Kamala Harris deserves to be we deserve to have a woman as a 47th president because men got to be presidents 46 times. Now it's a woman's turn. Hell no. That's not logical. Are you crazy? But this is the politics. This is the politics of the Democratic Party. This is their religion. And you saw how angry, how incensed they got because Donald Trump dared question the identity of their candidate. I digress. If you vote for Kamala Harris because of her skin color and her genitalia, hey, look, maybe we deserve the outcomes that we got in this country, bro. Maybe we deserve this recession. Maybe we deserve higher rates of unemployment, higher rates of inflation. We getting smacked. So not only as our cost of living increase, it's harder for us to find a job to keep up with inflation, depending on your field. I saw this coming a long time ago. I talked about it previously. I talked about how this is a strong economy. College kids graduating right now are talking about how hard it is to find a job. That don't sound like a strong economy to me. All the numbers did was confirm how I already was seeing things. But left, plausible deniability. If you can't prove it, it's false. It's a speculation. But now the speculation has become true.
It's wiped out. And because it turns out the guy had no executional skills. It would be important to leave aside the politics and ask, what has Kamala Harris actually done, actually achieved? Because if I was hiring
That's
her,
what I asked.
I'm not trying to be partisan. I would ask her, what was a goal? What did you achieve? Because any governor or any senator that would put into presidential viability would have a history, a track record of doing stuff.
What do you think she would say, Kevin? If you
Donald Trump has more experience than doing stuff. Oh, what executive leadership? Well, Donald Trump was a CEO. Donald Trump built a business from scratch. Donald Trump worked with numerous governments to build his towers and all. Like he showed at a level to execute at the executive level already. Sure, it wasn't in politics, but there was transferable skills there. Ask Kamala Harris what she accomplished. I just did a video. I said uninformed voters oppose Kamala Harris. And one of my biggest examples was that not a single Harrison supporter can tell you something that she accomplished. All they could tell you is her qualifications. Oh, she became the first district mayor. She's a district mayor. She was a senator. She was a presidential candidate. Those are not qualifications. They don't tell me anything that she actually accomplished. Kamala Harris is the type of politician that just wants the position. And once she gets the position, she don't want to do none of the work. She just wants the title. That's what Kamala Harris comes across to me. She just wants the title as president. She don't want to actually do the work as president. The Justin Trudeau comparison is spot on by Kevin O'Leary.
You asked her in an interview straight up, Kamala, what's your biggest accomplishment? What would she say?
I don't know, because I don't know of one, but I can tell you this. In the next 2 weeks, the happy talk is going to have to stop because someone's going to sit her down and say, let's talk inflation. Let's talk border. Let's talk policy on energy. Let's talk policy on foreign affairs. And if she doesn't deliver on that with the new vision towards the center, the guy that said, I wish we'd run a process is going to be right. If she wants to win, she's got to go to the center, but she's got to have some ideas on how to run the country.
Kamala Harris has no record of being able to speak to the center. She's a California Democrat. I will repeat, she's a California Democrat. All she knows how to do is speak to her side. The Democrats, people on the left, the vote blue no matter who, she only knows how to talk to those people. Because for them, it's enough to look a certain way. It's enough to have a D next to your name. That's the Democratic Party. They don't know how to talk to people in the middle. They don't never. They have. She has no skills making an appeal or a pitch to people in the middle. All she's used to do is pandering to her base. That's what she tried to do in 2020 when she was running for president, and she lost because she's not national candidate material. But hey, here we are. She got the position anyway because she is a person of color. Now, I railed against Kamala Harris enough on this video. On this next segment, we're going to talk about how the left, and this is another way of the branding. This is my idea. Look, I'm trying to prove this framing that identity politics is the brand of the Democratic Party. And one of the best ways is say, hey, if you want to see an idea, show me who represents those ideas. Let's look at some of these Democrat supporters. Segregation is not an option. This is a reaction video to one of Charlie Kirk's speaking tours where I guess he's going to debate two students on segregation. Let's take a look.
Columbia University, at Grand Valley State University, they have black-only graduation ceremonies now. At Western Washington University, black-only dormitories. White people are not allowed. We are going through the resegregation of America because that's always been their core, right? Racial harmony and a post-racial America was always something they detested because an America that is not divided on race is much harder to control.
I agree with 100% with what that is. Now, Democrat senators admitted that they could only win with a divided country. Oh, what's the best way to divide a country? Say it with me. Identity politics. This is why they don't like the nuclear family. You never notice that any type of unity, they don't like people coming together. They don't like people seeing race because that's less things they can use to divide people by. And you notice the Democratic Party is the ones pushing this messaging because it's part of their strategy to win. Case one for why identity politics is part of the Democratic brand. Let's take a look.
An America that's divided on race is much easier to control. So these people are power hungry. They also believe in these ridiculous racist abstractions. But I could go through the cult of diversity. Also incorporated is just a bitterness towards America, especially the American founding. And Marxist. This is where the 1619 Project comes. And it's such sloppy, one-dimensional, just awful thinking where they...
It's awful thinking and one-dimensional because that's all they want people to focus on. Oh, I can't be racist because I'm black. Racist idea. So you're saying you can't do something because of your skin color. Now, if I said black people can't be engineers because they're black, you will call me a racist. But you said you just can't be something because of your skin color. Using racism to justify why you're allowed to be racist. Sounds like privilege to me. But then you'll cry and complain about white privilege when the majority of people, the majority of poor people in this country are white people. But black people are disproportionately poor, Kenny. Black people are 13% of the population, but 23% of them are poor. But they make up 23% of the poor in this country. You didn't show me racism. You just showed me that, hey, the outcomes in these communities are different. That's all you showed me. Racial disparities does not prove racism. But with identity politics, oh, look at the disparity of outcomes. But they cannot show me in a society where everyone had the same outcomes. Even people within the same race have different outcomes based on parental status, based on family structure, based on their talents and skills. Like, make it make sense. I already made this argument. Even kids born in the same family have disproportional outcomes. They have different outcomes. The older brother is statistically more likely to be more successful than the rest of his siblings. But you don't cry about those disparities. Everyone knows that when it comes to success, it's a multivariable analysis. But to focus and hone in on race, you show me who you are, Democrats. Democrats has always been the party of racism. They just message differently now. Democrat presidents like Woodrow Wilson, they federalized segregation. They separated people based on their skin color. Now Democrats, they do it culturally. They do it politically. White women for Harris. Black women for Harris. White dudes for Harris. Segregation. Right in your face. Democrats. Of their own accord. That's what they do. But the party switch. Lie. They never changed. All they did was change their messaging. They never changed discriminating against people based on their race. They just changed the target of that discrimination. In the past, Democrats used to discriminate against black people. Now in the present, they discriminate against white people. And then Asians, depending on the field of study, depending on the industry. But then when you hold their feet to the fire, okay, you believe in DEI? Why you don't implement DEI in the NBA where it's 78% black? Oh, no, it's diverse enough. How is it diverse? Most of the representation is black. And they let the quiet part out loud. Diverse means non-white, non-Asian, the groups that we can't control with this pandering. Identity politics is racism. And if identity politics is the Democrats' brand, isn't Democrats the party of racism? Isn't Democrat the racist party? But they keep projecting and saying it's Trump. But Trump don't care about race. Trump's like, yo, these policies benefit all Americans. He just highlights how, hey, look, this certain group is more effective because they're 13% of the population. Who's easier to replace? 66% of the population or 13% of the population? So it's not a racist argument that Trump is making when he's saying that these illegals will take black jobs. He's just pointing out, hey, look, it's a problem for all of America, but you definitely, it's a definite problem for you, black community. But say, oh no, he's fear-mongering. Trump's a racist for pointing it out. Trump's a racist for noticing. Just like you're a racist for noticing that black men disproportionately commit crimes too. When it's bad, it's racism. When they're a victim of it, oh no, that's you just saying the truth. You're just saying the facts. Let's continue.
Say, well, the founding fathers had slaves, and therefore America's terrible. And that's a thought-terminating cliche, right? You say it, you get intimidated when they say it, and you kind of back away because you don't know how to respond. And the response should be very simple. Every human being that has ever lived has something in common. You're born into a world you did not create. Therefore, you cannot be judged based on the world you entered. You can judge how the world looked when they exited. The founding fathers entered a world where slavery was everywhere. It was not questioned. It was not challenged. It was institutionalized and defended by the law. By the time that Madison, Jay, Adams, and Jefferson died, slavery was largely abolished in most of the American states. It was written against vehemently. And not only did George Washington say it's a question of if slavery gets abolished, but when slavery gets abolished. Those are people that probably deserve some study and some recognition and some moral credit.
But what does the Democrats, and especially in academia and in college is overwhelmingly dominated by left-wing political thinkers, by left-wing professors. And they teach the youth to hate this country. All right? This country, since 1991, it's been the best place to be black. The top 1%, the wealthiest black people in the world live here in America. Poverty for a black American is different from an African in one of the countries in their continent. Poverty is different. Poor for us is, oh, I can't afford fancy cars or the newest thing or this. Poverty in other countries is I'm starving. We have government programs to help supplement women that can't take care of their children. And people want to sit here and complain about the struggles they face in America. The biggest wake-up call I ever had in my life is when I went to go visit Haiti, where my parents are from. And my mom was like, oh, look, we in the motherland. And I'm like, this is not my home. I told her that straight up. At 8 years old, I told my mom that. I said, this is not my home. I said, my home got water. my home got running water. When the men had to wake up early in the morning, I had to go help them fetch the water from the well. Oh, I learned real quick. Oh, no, this is poverty. Oh, no. I'm a city kid. This is what? They got to go they got to fetch their own water. And then I got to walk all the way over there and then come all the way back. And it's not one trip. I had to do 3 trips at least to get water. Those 2 weeks in Haiti, after I came back from Haiti, bruh, I almost cried seeing water coming out of the faucet because it made me appreciate, hey, look, my mom gave up that life for me to have a better opportunity because my mom came here legally. And then she met my dad, and then, here I am, their first American kid. That's why my name is Kenny. It's to commemorate the fact that I was their first American child. I guess Kenny was a proper name in the 90s. I don't know about now, but that's what my mom tells me anyway. In the 90s, Kenny was a popular name, a popular American name. So I have history with this country. Without America, I wouldn't exist because my parents met here. After they both legally migrated here, they met here in Florida, Miami, and then they have the legend here. But then they want to focus on identity. They don't want people to have any common ground. We all have a common interest in America because if America goes bye-bye, if something happens to America where we all have to flee this country, we all get displaced. We lose our home. And that common interest alone should make us all vote in the collective interest of this country. Not trying to pin each other, oh, I want this benefit, I want that benefit at the expense of the other American. Because in a way, whether they like it or not, we're all interconnected. This is a multiracial republic. Playing identity politics is not beneficial to the American people as a multiracial country. But the left still plays this game. They still play identity politics. They still say you against them, divide and conquer, because you're easier to control, exactly as Charlie Kirk pointed out. It's easy to control a black dude and tell him, oh, you shouldn't vote for a Republican. They're a racist. They're a party of white supremacy. Vote for us, even though the policies we push ain't going to help you. The policies we push incentivize your community to be comfortable in poverty. But no, vote against them. Vote against them. Emotional. It's not logical at all. Y'all both have a common interest, but they're creating this false dynamic that you guys are enemies. 2024 is the least racist time in American history, but they're trying to pretend that it's like the 1960s. Because Democrats know, we all know, that Democrats push identity politics because because it's for their political control. They know they win with identity politics. And if identity politics didn't exist, if Americans didn't see each other differently because of the color of their skin, they know they lose every time. Because they got to make an argument how their policies benefit all Americans. If you look at the Democratic platform, they got special slices. Oh, these policies are just for you. These policies are just for you. This is why they're in chaos right now. Because now the identity politics has come back to bite them in the butt. Because now when Trump called into questions Kamala's lineage, there's certain people who will not vote or who wouldn't endorse Joe Biden because he was a white dude. Charlemagne, the radio host guy, Charlemagne. He said, I'm not going to endorse Joe Biden. The only reason I'm voting for Joe Biden is because of Kamala Harris. Identity politics. Now that identity is called into question, now you flipped up his whole worldview. Am I really voting for Kamala Harris because she's a black woman? If evidence come out that she was never a black woman, that will destroy the Democratic Party. That's why they're clutching their pearls and trying to defend Kamala's honor. I digress. I'll let Charlie finish.
There was real moral movement that was happening because the founding fathers decided to embrace a promise of human equality. There are more slaves on the planet today than there were back then, and no one wants to mention them. And you might say,
You're talking about them boys in India or somewhere else. I forget where. But it's just interesting to me how ideologically tied wokeness, the Democratic Party, is to racism, right? So this is going to be my final clip of the day. And it's Charlie again, because Charlie, he gets these interesting debates with not interesting debates, but you get to see ground level what they teach these college kids at these universities. Remember, Ivy League universities like Harvard, Yale, 96% of the professors there are damn near all Democrat. In most colleges, it's on average in a general college board or a college professor staff, is a 12-to-1 ratio where it leans Democrat liberal. So like I said, the college is like the ideological church of the left. You go to college essentially to get indoctrinated. The same way that I say, hey, you're forced to go to church for certain times of the week. Eventually, some of those values, you get conditioned into those values. And that's what's going on with our youth in the college system.
Economic and social equality. I don't know really what that means, but maybe you could tell me. Interesting. Yeah, it means that like all people kind of get the same opportunities. in
Like
life.
Cuba, or like Venezuela,
No, not like Cuba or Venezuela.
or like North Korea,
No, not like.
or like how the Soviet Union did it, right?
No, I'd like you to stop like interrupting me. I think that all those examples of like capitalist systems are ones that aren't.
The Soviet Union was not a capitalist system.
Yes, I know. And Venezuela is not a socialist system.
Sure it is. They nationalized their oil and gas.
Now, imagine like Maduro, right? The Venezuela president right now, the one who doesn't want to give up his power. He calls himself a socialist. Last time I checked, the left's supposed to respect people's identity. If the man identifies as a socialist, you must believe that he's a socialist, right? And it's so convenient how the socialists always love to play this game. When the self-proclaimed socialist says, I can bring in real socialism, then socialist gets power in 2021, implements real socialism. When it was good, people said, oh, look, this is the benefits of socialism. After they ran out of the prosperity of when Venezuela used to be a capitalist country, and they dried up all the wealth and they started going downhill and everything started going poor. That's not real socialism. How convenient. So then how do I believe you know what real socialism is? Because Maduro thought he was putting in real socialism and it wasn't real socialism according to you. So how can I trust you that you're going to bring in real socialism? And the idea here is practically socialism is impossible to implement. Because like the trade-off with central planning is spontaneous order, the wisdom of the crowd is better than the wisdom of one individual. Because the wisdom of the crowd, they all have their they all have their angle, they all have their incentive, and they all make slightly different decisions. But as a whole, it makes the country better. That's how language was created. Language wasn't thought up by some intellectual, super smart one individual. It wasn't. It was a community that created language. If you want to see the perfect argument against socialists, tell a socialist, okay, create a better language than English, and then try to get everyone to adopt English, your version, your new language, your new artificially created language, and see how it spreads. It won't go far because people ain't gonna see the use in that language. You can't tell me who invented English. You can't tell me who invented English. But they think they can bring in real socialism. That's a dream that will never come true. And that's the fairy tales these socialists believe in. They believe in something that has never been truly implemented. And every example of them saying socialist is working, look at Switzerland, look at Scotland, or whatever country they say. The people of those countries, especially Sweden, Sweden will say, nah, we're not a socialist country. We're a capitalist country. So how funny. The socialist says, hey, these examples of countries that are doing socialism the right way all call themselves capitalists. And all the countries that call themselves socialists and they're doing it the wrong way are not socialists. How convenient. That's why I can't stand a socialist. Socialists are liars. They're deceivers. Right? They're snake oil salesmen. They're trying to sell you a product that they don't even know works. That's a socialist for you. I digress.
Reserves. They have nationalized healthcare, nationalized schooling. The government owns the means of production. How is it not a socialist country?
Because because of the history of U.S. interference, socialism cannot be enacted as it should be.
It also sort of functions under the guise of socialism. I think a lot of the
Venezuela is still corrupt as fuck.
Yeah, but
So they got all these excuses. Oh, Venezuela's corrupt as F. Well, that's government no matter what you do. Capitalism isn't a government. It's a perception of that communists gave capitalism, free market, right? And they're here saying, Venezuela is corrupt. Well, if it doesn't matter, people are corruptible. Giving people power corrupts them. So socialists, and this is my argument against socialists, socialism essentially is brittle to dictatorship, tyranny, because it sets the stage for it. Karl Marx even said it himself. Socialism is a transitional point to communism. That means you set the table for a dictator to come in and take over because you already expanded, you already have centralized planning, centralized power, and you make it easier for someone who wants to control everything. Oh, I just need to take over the government. I just need to get elected as president, like Maduro, and then I win. I take over everything. I fire people from private corporations because they said something negative against my regime. I used to make this argument all the time, and I'll make it here. Socialism is slavery. Socialism is like a monarchy. It's like a kingdom, right? If you don't believe in monarchy, then you don't believe in socialism, because that's what socialism is. A small group of people get to extract and control the resources being produced by the populace. And when the populace doesn't want to produce anymore because they see no incentive to produce to a system, they see no reason. Why should I work hard when everyone's going to get paid the same? Why should I be a doctor when everyone's going to get paid the same regardless if they're a doctor or a janitor? Why not take the easier job to do, the less stressful job to do? What does a socialist have to do? Use force. And this is my question to the socialists, because the reason why a lot of these idealistic young people fall into socialism is because if you could only imagine, we all could live free, we all to do our own things, people don't have to worry about paying bills and all that stuff. But to keep the water running, someone has to work. Someone's labor is going behind the fact that you have electricity right now. Someone's labor is right now monitoring and making sure the servers are up so we all can use the internet. That means someone's working right now. And how does it make sense that you want someone else to work for your benefit for free? This is my argument why socialism is slavery.
But can you show me any socialist country that works?
Yeah, most of Europe.
So maybe Norway, Sweden, or Finland?
Yeah.
But they're more economically free than America.
How so?
On the World Economic Freedom Index, they're ranked higher than America.
And one thing with Sweden, this is my problem with these leftists too. They want to tax the rich, like, I don't know how much money, 40%, 50%. In Sweden, everyone gets taxed the same thing. It don't matter if you make 60K, it don't matter if you make 70K, everyone gets taxed the same. Because you get, like, this is how dumb these progressives are. A progressive tax is unfair. It's discrimination by default. Oh, because you make more money, I'm allowed to tax you more? Either way, it applies to all of us or it applies to no one. That's why I'm a big fan. What's a fair tax system is a flat tax. This progressive tax, it essentially creates an incentive where it's punishing you for making more money. And they wonder why Democrat presidents, Democrat administrations generate less tax net revenue, has less funding for a lot of these welfare programs or a lot of these government programs, because they don't generate the tax revenue that they need to get that extra funding, that they get that extra oomph. While Republicans, they cut taxes and they get more money. Why is that? Because the incentive is, oh, look, I get to keep more of my money, so I'm gonna work harder to maximize my income. The lavender curve, I forgot what it's called. I think it was the lavender curve. There's a point of diminishing returns the higher you put taxes at. That's why 90% tax doesn't work. But tax the rich don't pay their fair share. But if you look at the stats, the top 1% of taxpayer pay 40%. They're responsible for 40% of the tax revenue. The top 1%. So if you find out, hey, this small group of people are responsible for producing 40% of the tax revenue that funds our government programs, wouldn't it seem, what sounds more greedy? Someone wanting to keep more of the money they make, or someone who wants them to pay more into a system where they already contribute 40% of the money, 40% of the tax revenue for the government? And they wonder why the rich run everything. They wonder why the Democratic Party and the Republican Party listens to big money donors. Because that's where most of the tax money comes from in the first place. Taxing the rich will essentially create an oligarchy. You see where my argument goes into why I say that socialism is like a kingdom? The rich becomes noblemen. It becomes a technocrat. It becomes, I forgot what you call a class of people. They run society because they're rich. That's what you're going to do if you make the tax the rich a thing. The rich can essentially negotiate with your government. Going to be like, hey, look, Democrat Party, this is how he's gonna go. Let's say I'm a billionaire. Kenny's the richest man in the world today. And then I find out a politician is about to tax me 90% of my money. They want to tax me on unrealized gains. This is the exact conversation I'm gonna have with this politician. Hey, look, Democrats, I understand, you throwing red meat to your, to the average American, tax the rich is popular and you're trying to get elected. I understand you're trying to get elected, but I'm trying to keep my money. I create all these jobs for you. I produce all these tax revenues for you. Look at how much I pay in taxes. It would be a shame if I revoke my American citizenship and decide to go to Singapore. Now, would it? Now, the politician shaking, because like in New York, they're like, God forbid the rich leave, right? So then he's gonna say, hey, look, this is what you're gonna do. Whatever bill you pass, you're gonna leave a special provisions absolving my company from paying these exorbitant tax rates. Essentially, you change the incentive. That's what socialism do. You change the incentive. Because the incentive is not going to be about you being the best business. The incentive is going to be who can pay off the politician more, who has more leverage over the politicians. And this is why I say, this is why rich multinational corporations support the Democratic Party, because they are allowed to do this. They can play these games. They got corporations all over the world. They're like, yo, if you're not doing what we want, we go somewhere else. And you're going to take an impact. Your people, your unemployment numbers are going to go up because I took the jobs out of the state. And it's going to make you look bad. And I don't think you're going to win a re-election without my money. This is how politicians become the richest, you know what. But taxing the rich is such a good idea. Nah, it's not. You're going to make the government more dependent on the rich. Now, if it was a flat tax, you spread the concentration of the revenue across the board. Because there's more poor people than rich people, the contributions will even out, and everyone's going to feel the need to maximize their productivity because they get to keep most of their money. But the reason why corporations support Democrats is that corporations that benefited from looser, less regulation, a less regulated environment, got the chance to build themselves up to a point where they could afford a regulated environment. Because regulation kills startups. Regulation kills small businesses. It makes it harder to start a business, right? The big companies can afford regulation. Oh, $15 minimum wage, I can handle that. $20 minimum wage, little expensive. We'll hire some people on $20 an hour, and then we'll invest the rest in automation. But if you're an upstart, right, you're a small business owner trying to get to their level, it's harder for you compared to when they started out because there's more regulation. This is why big businesses support the Democratic Party. But the average person don't see it that way. They just see what they want. They're narrow-minded. Oh, I just want the rich to get taxed more because I'm envious that they're making a lot more money than me. I hate the fact that they can flaunt a better lifestyle than I am, and it's kind of making me feel some type of way. So I want the government to take more of their money and give it to me. Redistribution of wealth. Socialism is based on envy. The left is actually based on envy. And that's what identity politics is, envy. Oh, look, majority of Asians are born into married households. Married households has a less probability of poverty compared to single mother households. Oh, look, what are the odds? 70% of black babies are born to single mothers. Is it any surprise that the black community is disproportionately in poverty? But then you're going to look at that Asian kid. Oh, look how, he got Asian privilege. He got modern minority status. Oh, these Asians, they think they're so smart. It's because he's Asian, that's why. It's because he's close to whiteness, that's why he's so successful. Not saying that, hey, look at the culture, Asian culture. Asian culture take education very seriously. If you look at the stats, Asians study on average an hour and a half more than other groups, other races of people. And is there any surprise they're so smart? And is there any surprise they do well academically? But you're going to give all the credit to how they were born and not look at their behaviors. This is my problem. This is what kills me with identity politics. Identity politics is based on envy. Because you're going to complain about, I don't have the same outcomes as white Americans. There's a wealth gap. But you don't talk about the decision gap, the work gap, the productivity gap. Half of the black community is under the age of 30. White community has a higher average age than the black community. Older Americans tend to make more money than younger Americans. So if I told you, hey, one population is younger than the other population, which one makes more money on average? You're going to say the older population is. Oh, guess what? White community is statistically, on average, has a higher average age compared to the black community. But the wealth gap is based on racism. Identity politics, based on envy. And then they use that envy, they use that emotion against you to vote against your own best interests, illegal migration. These people dilute your political power, black community. And then when the when the Democrat Party don't need you anymore, oh yeah, we're just gonna cater to the illegals now, and we run the country. We stay in power. We stay in control because you're not forward thinking. Because you vote based on emotions, and nothing ever came good out of an emotional decision. And this is why the Democrats keep focusing on racism. This is why the Democrats keep focusing on, oh my God, this guy's Hitler, this guy's this guy's that, because they want you to vote for them based off fear. And they leverage identity politics as a kind of Pavlov's dog, a way of conditioning people to have a conditioned response to certain words. Oh, I call this guy a racist. I can't vote for him. I can't support him. That's what's really driving Trump derangement syndrome. That's what really drives Trump derangement syndrome. The media calling Donald Trump a racist, even though he won the AACP reward for helping black business owners. Oh, no, let's forget all that. He ran as a Republican. Now he's a racist. Identity politics. I mean, I hope people are seeing how the Democrats leverage this stuff to manipulate people into voting for them for emotional reasons. They can't intellectually defend their policies or none of that. They just say emotion. I rambled enough. Let's get back to the video.
America.
And so what does that mean?
So lower taxes, less regulation. So they're not, I wouldn't consider them to be socialist countries.
They provide healthcare for all their citizens.
So does Cuba. How does that work?
I'm sure.
Because they're
Norway, Sweden, Finland also has a homogenous population.
Oh, I want to know about this.
Yeah,
Why do you think? Why is that sort of thing promoted?
Because it's 6 to 7 million people.
They don't need a homogenized society.
You don't need it.
But what is? I don't even know.
Because they have low.
Yo, it's so dumb. In a family structure, let's take my family for instance. It's a socialist structure technically. I make all the money, and I provide it for my wife and my kids. My kids didn't work for the money, but they're entitled to the money. Hey, daddy, I want to buy a new game, right? Daddy, I want to buy a new controller, right? My son didn't work for that money, but I gave it to him anyway. That's socialism. Technically, at a smaller level, it's socialism, right? But as you get further out of society, it has to be more capitalistic because what I'm willing to do for my son is not what I'm willing to do to a stranger. Right? If a stranger asks me, hey, Kenny, can you buy me a new controller? I'm like, who are you? Why need I buy you a controller? Because I have nothing in common with that individual. That's why homogenous cultures tend to be more socialistic, because people have that sense of community. And the funny part about it? Identity politics makes it damn near impossible for a homogenized culture to happen here in the USA. Because if we had my way, and we're all American first, we're all patriotic, we all taught to love this country, we'll be a more homogenous culture where technically, culturally, it'll be more possible to do socialism. When America had a more homogenous culture, we used to have community clubs where healthcare was ran by communities, not by the government, by communities. Communities just come in, they pitch in, right? They create and then we negotiate amongst ourselves, collective bargaining like a union. But we don't have no union boss. It was amongst our community, and we would negotiate on behalf of our community to get health care, to get all this stuff, retirement. We used to do that all on our own without any prompting on the government. It's only because our society became fractured, more divided, less communal, that we started going to the government. Oh, I can't rely on my family. They're too far away. I need someone to help me. And this is how we got into the trap of the war on poverty, government programs, unemployment. It used to be when you find out someone's on a hard time, hey, I'll offer you a job. Because America in the past was a lot more entrepreneurial, especially in the 1920s. We had a more do-it-ourselves mentality. But not anymore. Now we rely on the government. Government, give me everything, please. It's funny how ironic that is. Identity politics hurts homogenous culture.
Rates of immigration.
Can you explain to me why?
And so they have less people coming in their country every year that need Medicaid equivalent type social programs.
Can you
and then also illegal immigrants take up most of the resources from welfare. They are the majority of participants in the welfare system, illegal immigrants. So if we didn't have illegal, let's say we had no illegal immigrants in America, there'll be a more surplus of resources to make better, adequate services, government services to their American citizenship. This is how illegal immigration hurts America. But make you feel, oh look, it's xenophobic. There's xenophobia. Is this? So you don't think logically about how these people being here actually takes resources away from you, regardless if they're doing something or not. If someone comes to my house and they don't contribute to my house, they're using more toilet paper, they're using more water, they're using more electricity. Just the fact of them being in my house, and you don't think the same concept scales up when it comes to a nation? I mean, common sense is not common now, is it? I'll give this video one more minute and then I'll wrap up the live stream.
They have the strictest immigration policies in Europe, in Norway, Sweden, Finland, and they don't pay for a national military. 70 to 80% tax rates for the highest earners, of which I oppose completely. Sweden has full school choice, which I'm sure you support, right?
I don't.
Oh, okay, but Sweden has full school choice.
I mean,
Sweden's also ranked higher on
if
the
all
world.
schools are funded equally, then yeah, I would support school choice. But the fact is that schools in richer areas have better funding. And
you see how dumb this idea is? Like, oh, if they all got funded equally, well, you tax rich people more than you tax poor people. So of course, richer areas will have nicer facilities because you tax them more. Make it make sense. And if we didn't have, if we remove government, you wouldn't be entitled to have equal distribution. If I decide I want to spend $500 on my kid's education and you want education for free, and then you get mad that my kid is learning better than your kid, my kid is having better educational or academic outcomes than your kid, you can't be like, oh no, we need to spread the resources equally. Your 500 needs to be split between my kid and your kid for 250 each. I'm gonna be like, but all the money's coming from me. How is that a fair deal? It's not. And this is the idea she's saying. She's talking about communism, socialism. That's what she's talking about right there. You see how socialism is slavery? You want to benefit off of my labor. I want to use all 500 for my kid, but because you see that my kid is having better outcomes than your kid, and we both are American citizens, and you think it's unfair, you want the government to come in, put a gun to my head, extort me, take my $500, split it, give it to your kid, so they both have $250, so they both can have equal outcomes. That make sense to me. Socialism is slavery, guys.
So, thus give people better education as opposed to poorer areas, and thus poor people who can't afford to choose that rich school, who can't commute, who can't afford the tuition, are not going to be able to get that level of education.
So why is it that we've spent more on education in the last 60 years federally, but our test scores have gotten worse? Why do you
Make it make sense. The results do not speak for themselves. Every time you try socialism, and this is my problem with a lot of these kids, that they like the desirability of how something sounds. Hey, we want to invest more money into education. Cool. For the past 50 years, we invested more money into education than we did for the year prior, and we keep getting a worse and worse product. Department of Education was created in 1972 by Jimmy Carter. At the time, we was #1 in education. So as I expect, hey, we should be better, right? Because we have Department of Education regulating everything. We should have a better education. We should have a better service. What was the outcome? 2008, education was ranked 24th. Huh? How we went from #1 before the Department of Education was created, now we're down to 24th in 2008. We're probably even lower now in 2024. But we're spending more money than ever in education, lighting money on fire. That's money we could have been saving to pay off more of our national debt. That could have been money that have been used for other resources. And this is something that government and socialists don't understand. They don't understand opportunity cost. The opportunity of spending, my same example, opportunity cost. I could get my kid a better education with $500. Let's say there's 3 tiers of education. The 0 tier, the $250 tier, and the best tier is $500. I have $500 I can give to my kid. I want to give him the whole $500 so my kid can have a better quality education. But you don't have the money like I do. So you keep your kid at 0. But he doesn't have as good as the education I do. You go to the government, force the government to split my money. Now, both our kids have same quality education. But let's say the outcomes of society. If I had the opportunity to invest the money because I can into my kid, there'll be an incentive structure where you'll be forced to either make more money, aka making you more productive to get your kid in a higher level, or you'll find a more cost-effective way to reproduce the same outcomes that I have at a cheaper rate. That's what capitalism is about. Hey, how we can get the same results as Keeney's kid without spending $500 that we don't have? Oh, let's homeschool. Homeschool's kids have comparable results. We're just going to track their curriculum, give them the same curriculum, but I have to be the teacher. I have to sacrifice my time because I don't have the money. We have lost the ability to problem solve in our society, right? And I think it's mainly because of all this mental conditioning they've done to us, right? And then I think I'm done talking on this video. I want to end off with this point, is that identity politics is such a, what Elon Musk call it? A woke mind virus. It's such a destruction in our politics because it essentially has conditioned people to perceive themselves as helpless or guilty based on their identity. If you're a white person, you're supposed to feel guilty about your race. If you're a black person, you're supposed to be proud of your race, even though you statistically are at the bottom of every damn statistics except sports. But you're supposed to be proud. You're supposed to be proud I'm black. But look at the results your community is producing. What you have to be proud of. You're one of the poorest communities here. You've been here for generations, and there's stats out there that black immigrants make more money on average than African Americans who've been here since slavery. How did that happen? You can't explain it. Because you let the Democratic Party use identity politics to condition you, because based on your skin color, right? You believe in white culture, black culture. White culture says you have to show up on time. White culture says you have to invest your money. White culture says you have to spend and be frugal. That's not my culture. Now you're trying to conflate your behavior with your race and saying, I do certain behaviors because of my race. The same way girls with horoscopes said, oh, I'm a Pisces, I do this. Oh, so you're going to blame your insufferable behavior on the day you were born? That's how I see identity politics, racial politics, this idea of blackness. I'm tired of people looking black but talking white. This is where this racist, dumbass idea comes from, identity politics. And that is the brand of the Democratic Party. Has been, and seems like it always has been, the party of racism. That's my argument. I hope you guys enjoyed the live stream. I know I went a little bit over, but that's okay. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I hope you guys enjoyed the segments. Timestamps will be out shortly after I finish filming this live stream. Let me know in the comment section what was your favorite segment. What was some things that I missed? What are some things that identity politics, and in ways that identity politics has hurt our public discussion, our public discourse, our political landscape, how we're covering it. I appreciate all you guys for today. I hope you guys have a good weekend. Thanks, Tim O'Neill. Have a good night. Peace.